Hi, everyone. It's Lynn Davenport here and Mary Lowe with Families Engaged. This is our weekly update. So we have an article that we want to share with you that we read in the Texas Monthly, and we got a call after Mary had posted it from someone who was concerned that we would be posting this article and that we would support it. And when we further examined the article, there are a lot of issues in the article, and we're going to go ahead and dive into that. It's Texas Monthly, Mimi Swartz, talking about school vouchers. However, she gets a lot of things right about the public policy, and I call them stink tanks, but how they have been involved behind the scenes. And so we're going to go into that just a little bit. And I think I think you'll find I don't like using the word nuanced, but these are kind of nuanced discussions that we're having here. So I'm going to share the screen. Hang on just a sec.
Yeah, I was super excited to see that Texas Monthly was finally doing something on education. The magazine really does have an obligation, in my opinion, to cover education very extensively and thoroughly. And they certainly have the ability to do that. And we've given them a lot of information. Mm-hmm. So when I saw it, disappointed that it was Mimi Swartz, but grateful nonetheless. And I probably jumped the gun, but I felt like everybody needed to see the article. And as you said, there were a lot of good things about it, but dadgummit, Mimi just likes to make drama, in my opinion.
Well, sorry. So one thing I was sending to, we're on a big group, a big thread with a bunch of people on all of these school issues. So this kind of goes on throughout the day. And, when I read the article at first, I was glad that she was talking about those details. I know you were too, about TPPF, and I'll scroll to some of that. But before we get to it, so she's an excellent storyteller and writer. The problem is that she's also an operative, and she works for the media. So, media. Excellent writer, but she is so biased. Her bias comes straight through this, that she dismisses any of the issues that parents have in their school districts. So here's the
and I read it, and the stuff where she was talking about Joanna Day, I was like, this is just a novel. Like, I didn't take any of that as factual. I just looked beyond it because I was looking for the hardcore inside Austin, the issues that are creating this education cartel that's literally destroying education. And I thought, hey, she's doing a good job. She's talking about the players. She talked about Monty Bennett. She talked about Texas values. She talked about TPPF. She's talking about all of it. But yet she did kind of lose it when she got in the weeds and started talking about the actual grassroots and the parents and the people. And I don't know, too much fiction, too much like a novel there. And I just discounted it. But boy, some people really kind of called me out on looking beyond that. So I'm glad we're going back and doing this and gonna dissect this. So what do you see?
I'm glad that they came to us first, because this is the problem. So the other thing I was going to say about Mimi Swartz is that she not only does her bias show through, but a lot of these writers that are writing for some of these major publications, Tribune and Austin Statesman, they're all featuring the parents, or they're showcasing these high drama cases, hot button issues such as the transgender stuff in the schools and the CRT, and they're dismissing it as though anybody who has concern with these things, they're fringy. We had that one article where the guy called us fringe podcasters, and I made the joke fringe benefits, but but Mimi, what she does is she create that. This is what happens every legislative session, is that it creates that polarization, and with every session, the polarization grows. You've got the I don't want vouchers. You've got the we've got to have vouchers, that we need the money to fund, we've got to fund students, not systems. And you have those who say it'll defund public education. Well, the problem is with that polarization, it sucks all of the oxygen out of the Capitol, and that is where everyone lands. And then it's just this battle through the whole session.
Lynn, not only is it sucking the oxygen out of the Capitol, this session, it seems to be sucking the elected officials out. This is the second week they voted themselves a 2-day work week, and then they had us an ice week. I mean, hello, let's get something done here.
Let's
It's
get
almost
something done
March.
here. That's
Yeah.
right. So going into this, so she sets it up that you've got Dripping Springs ISD. You have trustees, and she gives the whole violin, cue the violins, talking about this trustee who doesn't feel safe, and maybe that's real and true. But they also go into the transgender student, and it's always portraying. It's like it's kind of like the swimmers, with that transgender swimmer where
Yes.
you forget the victims who have to see a man in the dressing room and just how traumatic all that is, but then they feature this person as a hero. Well, they've done a little bit of that where anybody who has a concern with it, they're demonized and villainized or vilified, and then this, they portray the one student as a victim, and they have a lot of trigger words like pedophiles and groomers in here, talking about Grapevine High School. And and then they also talk about the book bans. And of course, it's not a book ban, it's a book review that most parents want. They just don't want their kids to be able to check out these nasty books. They want some sort of label on them or a rating, just like you would a video game. So they make everybody look like wingnuts. And but what she got right, we'll get into this. We're going to scroll down in here. It talks about vouchers, and why you and I are not for vouchers is several reasons. You can start with your reasons if you want.
Well, I mean, again, the number one thing for me being against vouchers is that they are not being honest about it. If it's going to be a voucher or a tax return or something that the government's going to give to you, say that this is not parent empowerment and this is not school choice. And for them to use that nomenclature, I mean, they just tested the market. What are people hungry for? That's what we're going to call it, and that's what they did in TPPF. And Lieutenant Dan led the way on that. And actually, that concept came out of Florida, thanks to Moms for Liberty, who nobody really knows what their true colors are. I'm not sure they know what their true colors are. They seem very confused about what's really going on in education with their alliances and then broken alliances. I don't know, but that is really kind of where this whole concept came from. And then they take it up, and that's the sales pitch.
We also mentioned Mimi also mentions Betsy DeVos.
Betsy DeVos, yep, she does. I mean, again, she knows who the nefarious people are. That's for sure, and they're a lot of the same people that we've been talking about and thinking about. And so that's number one, is that they're not being honest with the public. And they started the deceit and the dishonesty by connecting the two at the Texas GOP convention this summer by an operative who was put on the plank committee for education straight out of Austin, that you can connect all the way back to good old Governor Abbott. So, I mean, this has been planned, just as Mimi says, decades-long push to privatize the education system. Well, the privatization that's being set up is the second reason that I'm opposed to the voucher. The third reason is beyond me why anybody would think that a government who has already destroyed any scintilla of a healthy education system called the ISD by overstepping their authority time and time again, going behind the elected bodies time and time again, with a committee that's appointed by the governor or an appointment of the governors, that they go unchecked. So that, why would you let them have another lane and another lane and another lane when the one they're responsible for, they're not fixing? And at the end of the day, no matter what they do with these vouchers or education savings account, at least 80, if not 90% of the children in Texas will still be educated in the traditional community ISD. Parents want their kids, for whatever reason, to have a Friday night lights experience, to go to school with the kid across the street. And I get it, I relate to that. And then some of them just don't even, the option won't even be available to them still, because there's not going to be enough supply for the demand. And so you're still going to have the majority of the next generation's productive citizens failed to be educated by this body that has a constitutional commitment to educate them. So those are my 3 reasons. That was kind of long, but those are my 3 reasons. I just don't, and she certainly hits on one of them, which is the privatization of education.
Right. And that's shifting public money into private hands. And we know that there is an agenda through the Texas Education Agency to do that through charters, vouchers, education savings accounts, and portfolio models of education that will allow for the free market to step in and start taking some of that money. So one thing I wanted to point out is the call, or one of the calls that we got about this. The concern was that we would be overlooking some of the things that she was endorsing, whether it was the book stuff, the transgender stuff, and some of the other issues in the schools and the grooming and such. And in order to stop voucher, like, basically what she was asking is it more important for us to stop vouchers than it is to address those things? I said, no, we're doing both. And a lot of what we do is help parents to file grievances and to highlight the issues in the public schools so that we can clean them up, because regardless of whether vouchers passes or not, it's still the majority of the children are going to be in our public schools. So why would we not protect the ones that are already in our care? And so I had to explain that we're doing both. So we are fighting vouchers. We're opposed to that. We would like for our legislators and for our local authorities, our local electeds, to do their jobs and hold them accountable at the local level as well as at the Texas Education Agency. What we're finding is, because the school choice, like I said, sucks all the air out of the room, that's all they're doing is focusing on that rather than doing their primary job. And then you and I are going to Dripping Springs, that is next Wednesday. And so coincidentally, this article, got wind of it yesterday, and we've already booked this event. Well, the venue has been canceled because they think it had a picture of an American flag on the invitation. And some of the homeowner, it was in technically it was a private homeowners rec center. And so they're not allowed to do anything political. Well, there was nothing political on the invitation except for an American flag. So apparently an American flag is political. Now, they canceled our event because of the whole voucher thing, which is interesting because you and they just assumed with the American flag that we would be for vouchers. And so they canceled the event. There's nothing, there's no reason, but obviously they haven't done their research. And if they had, they would have found that we are opposed to them. Also want to point out, there are some legislators who are mentioned in this article, such as, and I'll let you talk about Texas Values and Jonathan Science, because we did a previous show about that. But so Jason Isaac, we talked about him. They talked about Donna Campbell, and Donna Campbell has been a huge proponent of, and she's taken money from contributions from the voucher supporters. A lot of what you're not seeing in this session is who's receiving these major donations from these political or these PACs and those who support vouchers, and the whole dark money that is behind school choice. That's the thing that people can't see. So they hear the talking points, the slogans, and the major marketing campaign around this is going on nationwide, because this was School Choice Week last week. Anything you want to say to that?
No, I mean, I think you did an excellent job there, except I would add here that there's a website called Transparency USA, and you can go to Transparency USA and click that your state is Texas, and you can go to candidate, and you can see who's donated to every candidate. So you can look and see who all's taken the money from the pro charter school and the pro voucher. And in speaking with several people who are on the inside, when I've asked for the pulse of whether or not vouchers are going to pass this time, the feedback that I get is, well, it depends on how many of the Democrats have been bought. It's all about money. It's the whole thing is about money, and it's really a shame, because the focus needs to be on what's best for the children and what's best for the state, and it needs to have accountability. It's just, we're so far down the pike on the
Yeah.
the money taking over and ruling everything. So I would just say Transparency USA. You mentioned Texas values. Man, when I got into politics actively, I mean, I've always been alert, but super active to protect the children, and that's been my only focus. To make sure that our state is not ranked in the bottom quartile when it comes to success at educating children. And I was super excited about Texas values because they're supposed to have Christian principles as their values. And I saw what they wrote, about Jonathan Saenz, and just way too often. Yeah, Jonathan Saenz.
I'm gonna scroll back up to that.
And again,
I don't know all this stuff that he's.
I'm happy for Jonathan to go and testify places and say, hey, this is not a good idea for our children. I'm not happy for his organization to run around and say, you guys need to do this because it's what the governor wants done. No, we need to run our state based off of what the electorate wants done. And people,
by the people, we the people.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So
people.
So Jonathan Saenz is a pastor. Is that
no?
Oh no, he's not.
I don't believe he is. No, he's an attorney.
He's Texas values. It's saying somebody says maybe from a parent or a local pastor.
Yeah,
Sorry,
could be.
Yeah. Okay, and I want to point out too that we have gone, or you mentioned that we've gone to Mimi Swartz to give her other stories. And this is a frustrating thing that we have, is that we're trying to expose the entire TEA. We don't want to get mired in all of these little battles here, because it keeps him getting away. He being Mike Morath at the Texas Education Agency. There are contracts going through that government agency and crony deals. And, we busted that guy talking on audio, one of their high ranking officials, the deputy of governance, Steve Leschelow. I said his name wrong on the last one. And Steve Leschelow saying, oh, well, we need somebody we're going to stick it to the ISD. We need a parent who's disgruntled, whose child hadn't received services, and using that for the governor's agenda. So we've got to have people like Mimi have a powerful voice, but instead she's going to make this all partisan and about this voucher deal. But if she really understood what was going on at the Texas Education Agency, that could really move mountains if the press would do that. But for whatever reason, they don't. And they keep us mired in the left-right paradigm and fighting each other when these oligarchs are getting away with, who knows what. And those are the tyrannical leaders of Texas.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else before we close? Do you have anything more you want to say?
No, I mean, again, I think that the number one thing where they're wrong, that Mimi Swartz really stepped out of line, was that she left a narrative that the parents and the grassroots were the problem, and the parents are not the problem. And as long as we have people with a voice mitigating the parents' authority, then we will never be on the right side of this, no matter what. And the one authority, you asked me why was I against vouchers, the one authority that is at great risk here is the parents' voice, because right now the one segment of education that is a safe haven for children is their parents and homeschool. And there is not a bill that has been filed today that gives you an education savings account, also known as a voucher, that does not infringe upon the homeschooler. And I know that there have been some meetings. The most favored bill is the bill in the Senate by Mays Middleton, and it is terrible. And
specifically because of the way it uses the words parent empowerment is terrible. Why? So people can tell him why.
Well, again, the government can never empower a parent. Parents' inalienable rights come from God. And once you start enumerating them, you are going to leave something off and they're going to come back and they're going to take it. The other thing is we can get this, the Republicans have the majority and the Republicans can think they have this all set up the way they want it set up.
Mhm.
But the reality is once things get started from a legal standpoint and a precedent is set, they come back another session and another session and another session. And then because once they get the base of it in, they can come back and amend it. They can come back and change it and take something out. And the parents tend to take their eye off of the ball at that point, which is how we got here, is that taxpayers took their eye off the ball, taxpayers trusted and let the government go unchecked. And so they will pacify everybody to think, oh, we fixed education. We gave you a voucher and magically that's going to make your local school fall in line and do all the things they're supposed to do, which it doesn't. That's a lie. And it's going to empower you as a parent to have your rights respected in the school because now vouchers are out there. It doesn't. But what's going to happen is
anything that we can do with this. I think we need to tweet and reach out to Mimi and share this with her. I don't know if I have her right email address, but I have one that's an AOL.com one, MIMISWARTZ@AOL.com. Surely she has the Texas Monthly email address, but I think it'd be good for her to have the feedback from us. We're, you and I,
everybody.
What?
From everybody.
Yeah. And then with parents. So, and for those who want to understand some of the granular details in this argument or this battle with the vouchers, but for me, my reason for opposing it is all the same reasons that you mentioned, but also this is setting us up for a tokenized economy. And there's a new economy that they're creating. It's a learning economy. And they want that. They already have this at the TEA for $1,500 for special needs parents to use this was through the pandemic. It was slid in with a no bid deal through a company called Class Wallet. What they're setting up with this is will enable these blockchain wallets and cryptocurrency and reducing education to a form of currency. So your skills and your badges and all of these things, as well as your money, all of this will be stored on some sort of blockchain wallet, a life locker, so to speak, that's running through the Region 10 education service centers. That's where the Class Wallet and Greenlight Credentials blockchain wallets are run through. So they know all of this is coming, but the people don't know that. They're just going to take they're going to dangle the carrot, take the money. They don't realize that they're being ushered into a new system, a new economy. That there's no informed consent about. So that's kind of down the road, but I do know it is coming. Anything else before we close?
No, not at all. Just stay in touch. Find us on Facebook at Families Engaged for Effective Education. We have a page and then we have a group. Ask to join the group. And then certainly, follow the podcast TICAD or TICT, as we've said. And we'll try to come to you each week. The next upcoming sessions that Lynn and I do with TICT is we're going to talk about some of the specific bills that have been moved to committee in the Senate. And then we're going to also go into exclusively a bill that we're having trouble getting moved through, but it would in fact revolutionize and return education in Texas to quality education, and it would save a decade, if not two, from severe depression and great mental health issues, as well as a plethora of other physical health scenarios by getting our children off of the devices that we see kindergartners come to school addicted already to being on an iPad. It is time that we be bold. So we just hope that you'll reach out and be bold with us.
Thank you. All right. Y'all have a good evening.
Thanks.